Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. You always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing.
I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Talk until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind you know I'll always manifest it.
Good morning and welcome to my Mind of Your Matter. My name is Rick, and let's get the show started. Oh boy, I had a good night's sleep. It was a very deep sleep. Only woke up one time at 3 in the morning. That's normal. Not really. But yeah, I woke up at 3 in the morning. I was like, oh, I looked at the clock. It said 3 in the morning. I was like, oh, I went back to sleep. But I hope you guys are having a good sleep or a good day or wherever you're at, a good night. Uh, it is Friday. We are on our road to the weekend, long weekend for some. It is Labor Day weekend, and I'm actually going to a little cookout on Saturday. A friend of mine, she's putting together a little barbecue and so forth, and we're bringing the wine. We're bringing the wine and some treats and stuff for us to enjoy. I'm looking forward to it. Every time she does this barbecue stuff or cookout, it's always the best. I always have a great time laughing and talking and reminiscing for sure. It's been a while since I seen my friend, so the fact that we're going and we're gonna have a nice cookout, I'm looking so forward to it. I gotta roll up a couple of joints to take with me because I, when I go over there, I tend to smoke, and when I smoke like at least like 3 joints. They like 3 joints. I say yeah, because I'm when you're having a good time and you're having good food and good company, it's time flies by fast, and I tend to smoke a little more because I'm having like good conversations and the medicine gets deeper into me. So with that said, let's check out the weather because we have not done that in a while, and I think it's about time we do this. Check out the weather, see what's going on in the tropics. And as you can see, let's go ahead and make it nice and big for us to watch here. What's the areas of my concern? Areas of concern. Well, you got this little system that's crossing the southern Leeward Islands, going to the ABC Islands. Maybe it's going to bring beneficial rain to Carousel uh, and Aruba. Aruba's over here too, and I'm pretty sure they can use some rain. So this is definitely going to highlight some chances of rain. But this system's going to go ahead and move in through the Caribbean, and we got to watch it because you never know what this is going to develop into. We also got some showers here in the middle of the Atlantic conveyor belt here. Seems like maybe something can get together and develop. Um, a system that came out here off of Africa, pretty much dry air got to it and really took all the moisture away. Um, but that's all we're looking at right now. In the tropics, it's pretty quiet. It's not active at the moment. It's in a low right now, but don't get it twisted. It could flip in a moment, and we'll have like 3, 4 hurricanes out here at one time. I've seen it happen before. It can happen again. So let's go ahead and go to other news. Also, let's go to Jason A and let's check this out.
A rare case of New World screwworm has been found in Maryland. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says it came from a patient who recently traveled to El Salvador. The parasite hasn't been found in the U.S. since roughly half a century ago. It's a larval version of a fly that nests in warm-blooded animals and slowly eats them alive. Are you kidding me? This is, oh my gosh. Yeah, this is scary. It's hard to look at. Officials say there's no significant threat to the general U.S. population, but it can pose potential problems for some animals and foods.
Dangerous flesh-eating parasite, the New World screwworm, has been spotted just miles from the Texas border in northern Mexico. That's raising alarms for Texas livestock, producers, pet owners, and wildlife officials. Experts say the screwworm, which was extricated in the U.S. back in the 1960s, has now reemerged near the border, digging into live tissue.
The challenge with this pest is that the unfortunate challenge with this pest is that when the maggot infests the animal, it eats live flesh, and so as a result, you end up with death loss.
To prevent the parasite from spreading into the U.S., a new sterile fly facility is being built in South Texas. The strategy involves releasing sterile male flies to wipe out the population, a method that worked decades ago. Meanwhile, the USDA has already shut down cattle and horse imports from Mexico as a precaution.
A South Lake Tahoe resident has tested positive for the plague. No kidding, that plague. Obviously, it's nowhere near as dangerous as it was centuries ago, but officials warn it still needs to be taken very seriously. Health officials in El Dorado County believe that person got it from a flea bite while camping.
A case of bubonic plague in South Lake Tahoe is raising eyebrows and making people wonder.
I think it's crazy. I didn't even know the plague was still something that was going on.
And on the Health Watch, a person living in Nevada has tested positive for the bubonic plague. The South Lake Tahoe resident is now recovering at home, but it's left a lot of people wondering how the plague is spreading.
New Mexico man sick with the plague. He was camping in Rio Arriba County where he may have been exposed, according to the health department. The Valencia County man has been discharged from the hospital. This marks the first case of the plague this year in New Mexico.
A person in northern Arizona has died from the plague. Health authorities say the victim showed up to the Flagstaff Medical Center with symptoms and died later that day.
When we hear the word plague, many minds jump to the bubonic plague from the 1300s.
This disease actually killed between a third and a half of Europe.
Now, the same disease that killed 600 million, that killed millions 600 years ago, is more common than you think. Health officials say that plague bacteria, commonly found in higher elevation areas, is carried by rodents and often transmitted by fleas. Now, so far, 4 rodents have tested positive for the plague just this year. Experts say make sure to avoid the bacteria. You could do that by using insect repellent, making sure you're covered up, and making sure any pets have tick and flea medication.
The first case of the plague this year found inside of a 43-year-old Valencia County man. According to the New Mexico Department of Health, the man may have contracted the disease while camping in Rio Arriba County. The disease is known to be carried in wildlife and can be transmitted to humans through infected fleas.
So you don't want to get an insect bite, so an infected flea that has plague will spread it to other animals. That's why other pets and other wildlife can get plague, but it can be passed to humans too if you get bit by that infected flea.
Again, it's extremely rare. On average, the CDC says there are only 7 reported cases of plague a year in the U.S.
The CDC had previously confirmed the first New World screwworm case in the U.S. on August 4th. Maryland Health Department officials released a statement on Monday saying the impacted person has since recovered, adding that experts found no transmission to other people or animals.
It's not common that people will get infested with these.
The New World screwworm is a little bit larger than a housefly and is rare in people.
Kavita Patel, you knew if there was a flesh-eating parasite, we were going to be talking about it on this show and what we need to know, right? We thought this was eradicated, didn't we? Didn't we think this was pretty much wiped out?
Yeah, you're right, Hallie. It was eradicated. This was done decades ago for a fascinating mechanism. We actually raised billions of sterilized screwworm flies. So we raise the flies, sterilize them with radiation, and then drop them out of planes. You feel like this is a science fiction movie. It was real. Over Mexico and Central America, because the flies can't reproduce, they can't propagate the screwworm fly. So that's basically how we created this barrier zone, which has worked for decades until recently, as it's broken down kind of in that Panama, Colombia region, and then it can spread from there.
Is it not at all bad for humans? Is it a little bad for humans? Can it not spread to humans? Like, how concerned should we be?
Yeah, so the concern obviously for humans is there. It's treatable. So it's not just that we need to identify it, but it's also, Hallie, the implication for cattle and for crops and for people, for animals. So it's people, animals, all of our ecosystem that can be exposed to this. So what happens basically is they kind of hatch their eggs and larvae into like an open wound. And this can be in any animal, including a human, but it can be in cattle.
The New World screwworm is a parasitic fly which lays its eggs in the tissue of living animals, primarily livestock, like cattle. But on Monday, the Department of Health and Human Services confirmed the first human case of New World screwworm in the United States. This after a person traveled back to Maryland from El Salvador, where there's an ongoing outbreak. The maggots can cause serious damage and can kill those infected.
It gets this common name, screwworm, named after the maggot stage. because it's found in the sort of infested animals, and the screwworm looks like it's sort of screwing itself into the flesh as they're eating the animal.
The CDC had previously confirmed the U.S. case on August 4th, and Maryland Health Department officials released a statement on Monday saying the impacted person has since recovered, adding experts found no transmission to other people or animals.
It's not common that people will get infested with these.
The New World screwworm is a little bit bigger than a housefly and is rare in people. But back in July, U.S. officials paused imports of live cattle from Mexico over fears the New World screwworm fly was spreading north from southern parts of the country. The lasting suspension is straining the finances of many Mexican cattle ranchers.
We understand they are engaged in plans to establish traps for the screwworm fly in the northern region where the exporters are to detect that there are no screwworm flies. And I think we will soon have news.
And if it can happen to a human, whether it's from travel exposure, weakened immune systems, that's exactly how we saw this Maryland case progress.
Can it spread?
Treatable, recognizable.
Okay.
It can, humans can, it can. Yes, it can spread, but this is again why we're seeing that reproduction of those sterilized flies come back into the forefront, because what we need to do is really kind of stop this from propagating and any reinfestation that could happen. So that's the most important thing that we can do. And of course, staying away from anything or recognizing it, just as this individual did.
Yeah, I think this disease is going to be one that it kind of, listen, this is how I feel. They did this to Trump in his first administration when they released that C-19 out to the world. And Trump was super distracted, super tied down with that C-19 bullshit. And he didn't get majority of the stuff that he wanted to get accomplished. Now that Trump's back in office, now they want to come up with something else. Oh, what can we release so we could distract him and distract the world? Fuck it, put out the plague. The plague? Yes, just throw it out there. They'll suck it all up and we'll be all concerned and worried and it'll distract Trump. So let's do it. Okay, let's do it. And here we are. Some cases with the Black Plague. They found rodents that have the plague, and it's just we went from zombie deers and now the plague again, and it seems like history is repeating itself. It's like they're throwing the rats over the wall and they're waiting for the people to die, and then they come over and take over. This playbook has been played many times before in history. So I am not surprised at all. I am just not surprised at all. Let's see, where are we gonna take this next? What do I have? You know what? Let's go to this one. Let me see. Okay, let's go to this one here. Let's check this one out. This should be a little nasty. We need some nastiness. We need some nastiness in our lives. We're going to start off our Friday with some nasty. We're going to watch something nasty. Here we go. Dirty dining.
In tonight's Dirty Dining, a viewer who came straight to Local 10 after seeing something no diner wants to see.
Employees hauling kitchen equipment outside crawling with roaches. Local 10 News investigator Jeff Hines here has the video, confronts the owner, and explains what you can do if you see something like this.
Wanted to talk to you about this.
Oh, what the hell?
You're laughing. Yeah, you got a roach problem? A Local 10 viewer so concerned she started rolling. This video shot Monday behind Gojia Korean Barbecue. That's in the Lincoln Park Plaza at 6862 Sterling Road in Davie. Look closely, an employee holding what appears to be kitchen drain grates. Roaches are spilling out. The owner is spraying them with a can of bug killer. Here it is again. Those drain grates were taken right out of the kitchen by the cook line. I'm cleaning. You're cleaning it, but that means there are roaches in the kitchen?
No, just outside.
Well, but she was holding the trays. That's from the kitchen. You brought it out there and you sprayed it.
Boy, you have kids something.
The evidence is clear. And while this place has not been ordered shut by the state, this viewer wanted to know what to do if you see something like this. It is the most common question we get. How can I file a complaint? The answer, through the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. We sent her a link so she can file that complaint, and we've also put it on our website, local10.com, in case you find yourself in the very same position. We move down to Kendall. Jin Chinese, located at 15705 Southwest 56th Street. That is in the Miller West Plaza. 24 violations found in this kitchen. Jin ordered shut. You had roaches crawling around?
No more.
While they were open, serving you food, an inspector found live roaches under fryers, under a block, on top of a water heater. Dead ones scattered across the kitchen from sinks to light fixtures. How come it was like that, though? Do you not see it?
We before have see just little bit, and then we call someone coming. Everything clean already.
Is there a manager? No manager here. Our last stop takes us into the food court at the Southland Mall. That's in Cutler Bay. 26 violations recently found at Kelly's Cajun Grill. Can I leave a card for somebody? You all were shut last week. Had a rodent issue, roach issue, all kinds of food out of temperature. Records show more than 20 rodent droppings found right under this soda machine at the front counter. Roaches were crawling on a wall in a sink area and inside an empty plastic container stored on the kitchen floor. Mall management tells Local 10 News they are monitoring this location. They launched an internal review of all food court operations. We checked. No other food court spots had issues. In fact, Charlie's Cheesesteak was inspected the very same day. All the places ordered shut, allowed to reopen, following an ordered cleanup and then a reinspection. Jeff Weinsteer, Local 10 News.
Oh my God, that is so disgusting. Ugh, I'm sorry if anyone is waking up and you started watching the show and you got to this part of the show. I'm sorry. That was disgusting. Oh, rodents and roaches. That is, how is only in America. Only in America. That's all I could say. We portray ourselves something that we're not, and we brainwash the world to see only what we show. It's really disturbing. It's really disturbing, and like it's let's see one more. I want to see one more of the dirty dining. And say, Rick, didn't you say you're nauseous and sick and those making you sick? Yes, but I like to push myself. So I like to push myself. So I'm like, all right, let's watch another one. Fuck it, you know? So let's do it. I'm serious. And not the White House, because that can make you sick too. Let's come over here.
Tonight, 42 violations found inside one South Florida restaurant last week.
Plus, an inspector finding
Imagine
2 dead
the
rodents
roaches in
inside
the White House.
another place. Here's Local 10 News reporter Jeff Weinsteer with
Well, there
tonight's
used to
Dirty
be.
Dining report.
I'm Jeff with Channel 10. Who's in charge? In this kitchen, an inspector found 100 plus rodent droppings last week.
Oh my
Why
God.
were the conditions so bad? You had 42 violations. That's almost the highest so far this year. I'm wondering if there's an explanation. I mean, are these fair questions?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know. The place Le Gine Restaurant, it's east of the Golden Glades interchange at 178 Northeast 167th Street in North Miami Beach. Among the 42
Ew.
violations, according to state records, rodent droppings were found on top of a seasoning shelf, by a sink and the dish machine, under the cook line, at the front counter, and on shelves where plates are stored. There was mold in the ice machine. There was an accumulation of food debris, clean plates, clean utensils stored on a soiled shelf. Both bathrooms were, quote, soiled. A wall was, quote, heavily soiled.
I'm sorry for that because right now everything is good. Everything.
Can we go look in the kitchen right now?
Right now? Oh, off camera.
Oh, off camera. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
This employee did talk to the owner while we were here, and we requested to talk to him as well, but we were told that they would get back to us.
Next week, okay?
Next week. Yeah, of course. You'll call me next week. Is there a manager?
No.
This employee tells us to head to the front of the place. We're now in North Miami at Randy's Restaurant and Lounge, the location 13420 Northwest 7th Avenue. This employee sees us and stops in her tracks. While this place was open and serving you food, state records show an inspector found 2 dead rodents on the floor underneath shelves in the kitchen. There was mold in the ice machine. Their state license had expired last October.
Hello? Is there someone we can talk to?
She tells us we can't come in, and we leave a business card for someone to give us a call. No one ever does.
Last week you had an inspection here and you had a roach problem.
Yeah. Leo manages Rio's Restaurant and Buffet, the location 3937 North Federal Highway in Pompano Beach. He's open with us and honest. Last week in the kitchen he manages, live and dead roaches were found behind a sink faucet in the kitchen, in a kitchen drawer, in a box of foil at the front counter, next to the cook line in the kitchen.
Is the place cleaned every night by
Every
staff?
night. Oh yeah, every night.
And nobody sees this before the
No,
inspector
nobody see. No,
comes?
nobody see. No.
Leo says pest control comes every 2 weeks, and his message to customers.
They know we have a good food. You know, we always keep the place clean.
But after we walk out of the restaurant, Leo is concerned.
It's going to be on TV. This?
Yeah.
No, that's not right.
Not right.
But we feel you have the right to know. All those places we just mentioned were allowed to reopen following an ordered cleanup and then a reinspection. Jeff Weinseer, Local 10 News.
And for a full list of the restaurants ordered shut last week, simply scan the QR code on your screen with your phone. It'll take you straight to the Dirty Dining section of our website, local10.com.
Yeah, if you ever want to scan that code and you can check out the dining, like the Dirty Dining restaurants in South Florida. Ugh. It's because you put your trust right into others and you expect them to do the right thing, and yet they cut corners, rodents, dead rodents in restaurants, and freaking roaches all over the place, and droppings, and it's just mind-boggling how this is is going on in America. But this is not only here in America, this is all over the world. And you think America is nasty? There's other countries that are 10 times worse. Easy, hands down, like 100 times worse. Like, yeah, I'm looking at you, India. Like, it's wild. It's wild. We're living in very interesting times, I tell you. And I'm not lying when I say that. I am not lying when I say that. Let's see. Where should we go next? I'm gonna leave the Minnesota shooting for last. Okay, let's just we can do the White House one, and then we'll go down the line. Okay, so let me set this up. And here we go.
Plenty of top headlines to get to here on Live Now from Fox. And let's turn our attention right now to coverage of the United States-Mexico border and President Trump's crackdown on drug cartels, the topic already causing issues between the two countries. President Trump has directed the Pentagon to target cartels as terrorist organization, but Mexico's president is pushing back, and they are not the only one. These are some video from inside of, obviously, the politics in the legislature there in New Mexico as lawmakers Alejandro Moreno, the leader of the opposition PRI party, went to the podium as Wednesday's session ended and angrily confronted the Senate president there, Gerardo Hernandez Noroña, the ruling of this Morena party for not being given the floor. So obviously this coming into our newsroom,
Damn, he got that guy at one push.
They're here on Live Now from Fox. And before we get to that, let's be joined right now by Alan Katz, the Mexico City-based attorney. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, and obviously talking about
what's going
the sensitive
on?
nature of the United States and Mexico, the Pentagon targeting cartels at terrorist organizations. What can you tell us? What's the latest on that? What's the feeling there in Mexico?
Thanks a lot for the space, Annie, and warm hello to all your viewers. Well, we have seen a very serious compromise from the Mexican government to collaborate with the American government during the current presidency of President Claudia Sheinbaum. She has done an outstanding job of cracking down on cartels, working with the United States, deporting serious bad guys who have been in prison in Mexico. We've deported more than 40 capo leaders. We've done, Mexico's done a wonderful effort to get things done, but there will always be the feeling that it's not enough. And Mexicans do feel that we need to step up our efforts. There is a lot of frustration due to violence and drug violence, especially directed at the government, even though I truly do believe that the government has been doing their best efforts and we have seen the best results in ages.
And of course, the president there of Mexico has said there won't be an invasion of sorts in terms of influx of the United States helping out in terms of these cartels. But what would it look like? Is there concern from the president about that at all?
I think that is an issue that has a lot more to do with speech, rhetoric, with politics. In essence, we have to understand that there is a very important collaboration between the United States and Mexico, and that's not going to stop. America needs the help of Mexico to stop the flow of fentanyl and migrants to the United States. And of course, Mexico is glad to have the help from Americans, but the language is where things become very, very, very stressful, where there is an interpretation that when Lili Tellez, who was part of the problem yesterday, the Mexican senator, speaks about this on Fox News as she did, there is this misinterpretation that we want the U.S. Army to come into Mexico to help us fight cartels. That is not what we're looking for. We're looking for lawful collaboration to stop the flow of drugs and violence, stop the violence in Mexico.
And can we get into some of those legalities, because the two legal systems very different? How did the United States legal actions involving cartels impact the politics in Mexico? Because we've seen the co-founder of the Sinaloan cartel get sentenced after being extradited to the United States. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, it depends on what you're speaking about. If you're speaking about the recent developments where Ismael Mayo Zambada was pled guilty in the last couple of days, well, he did not get extradited to the United States. He was kidnapped by El Chapo's sons and taken to the United States. And obviously, looking at his dire situation, he decided to plead guilty and try to get any benefits he could out of that deal, especially avoiding the death penalty. The case with El Chapo, which is a case that had been that's been going on for a long time now. This is old news. He was extradited and he has been put in prison, and it was a lengthy trial, and he was found guilty. So these two are very, very big wins for the United States, but they're also very big wins for Mexico, because having bad guys in prison is good for all of us.
And that's very interesting. There's so many different layers to this, and a lot of, like you mentioned, also the rhetoric around this, or what they're saying. I want to ask you, though, about the video I played off the top, just as we change subjects a little bit, talking about this shoving match there in the legislature. Who are these individuals? Because obviously people in the United States may not be paying attention very closely to that, what's taking place in Mexico. Who are these two individuals, and why are they important?
Well, first of all, it's a very entertaining, but obviously a deplorable conduct within our Senate or within our Congress. The individual doing the shoving is a guy known as Alito. His name is Alejandro Moreno, and he is the president of the PRI party, which used to be the biggest or the most important party in the country. It's been eroded and depleted through a bunch of defections and losses in electoral matches in the past. But he is the president of one of the major opposing parties still. The person who is being shoved around is Gerardo Fernández Noroña, who was or will be until the 31st the president of the Senate. Now, it's important to make a distinction. He is a member of the Morena party, which is the ruling party, but when he's up there, he is the president of the Senate. And as the president of the Senate, he is supposed to be impartial in order to conduct the ordering and the coordinating of the Senate proceedings.
And I just want to ask you, you mentioned just this ordeal is going to get a lot of attention just because of the visuals of what we see there. Is it not going to escalate beyond? Is this basically the end of this, at least in terms of the physical nature of it?
Oh, absolutely not. Alejandro Moreno, Alito, the PRI president who started the shoving match, is in the middle of an impeachment proceeding that's been going on for a long time. He has had a number of investigations regarding corruption and the inexplicable or his inexplicable wealth. That is the accusation in itself. So I think that this is going to probably have a political impact on those impeachment proceedings, because regardless of how things matured or eroded to this point, it is obviously unprecedented and very, very frowned upon that this would be the end of a Senate proceeding.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is really kind of the first vantage point that we see of this, and obviously this taking place there in the Senate. Is there anything else we need to be paying attention to? Anything else in terms of what comes next in terms of this altercation, but also the relationship between the United States and Mexico?
Well, the United States and Mexico are the greatest trading partnership in the history of the world. I often say that we're not really neighbors. We're more like lovers. So we have to bear with each other. We have to look at each other in a positive light. We are going to see many, many changes, but Claudia Sheinbaum is doing her utmost best to have a productive relationship with the United States. I think she's doing her best.
All right, very good. And do you think the pressure will ramp up at all? Is there concerns over that from President Trump about what's going on with cartels? There's a crackdown on crime. We've seen the National Guard be deployed in our nation's capital here in Washington, D.C. Do you think the pressure will be heightened at all?
I think pressure is at the most now, and I think it's yielding the best results. We do, as I said before, have unprecedented collaboration between the United States and Mexico. We are seeing the best results in drug enforcement. We are seeing best results in fighting violence. So I don't think there will be a necessity to do anything else than what we have been doing and keep the ball rolling, continue in this fashion.
All right, very good, Ilana Katz. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live and Now from Fox. I appreciate your insight. A very unique story, to say the least.
Thank you very much.
All this noise out here, they're banging and doing all this craziness. But I wish YouTube gave you the options to remove those boxes at the end of videos, because it seems like you can't see the picture, right? And you hear them talking, but you have these floating boxes to watch another video. I'm like, damn, can you just wait till the video finishes before putting those boxes? Why are you putting it like 30 seconds and we're still listening in and watching, and you have these boxes that are recommending us to watch something else? It's ridiculous, YouTube. Come on now. You could wait till the end to put that out there. Let's go to another story here. All right, let's go over here. This is, I guess it's coming out of Australia. So let's see what Australians are talking about.
Now to Stars and Gripes, and up first, ex-DNC chair Jamie Harrison on Gavin Newsom's podcast. He reveals that the Democratic Party is stuck listening to the same old left-wing voices over and over again, and it is killing them.
People in DC are in a bubble, right? And all they're doing is reading Politico and seeing what MSNBC and CNN is talking about, but I'm actually like in the union halls or in the churches or in the barbershops and talking with real people. And you're ringing the bells like, folks, I am telling you, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing from folks on the ground. And I think what we have to do as a party is get less in the polling stuff. Well, the polling says blah, 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 blah. Actually go out and talk to folks, right? Because pollsters can ask questions in different ways and get whatever they want to get to support the theory that they already have, right? But there is nothing like getting the real, raw sense of where folks are.
Well, joining me to discuss is President of the Center of American Experiment, John Hinderaker. John, thank you, as always, for coming on the show. This is really interesting, this admission that we're getting from somebody that did, at one point, run the DNC, saying that, well, maybe we've been too distracted to polls and we live in a bubble. And that's probably something that you and I could have told them for free without any of that consulting cash.
Jack, that's exactly right. You know, the Democrats are fretting about what's wrong with our brand. Well, I can tell you what's wrong with their brand. Their policies are unpopular. What do the Democrats stand for? They stand for open borders, for uncontrolled spending and high taxes. They're pro-crime. They're obsessed with DEI and trans ideology, and they're weak on foreign policy. All of those positions are very unpopular. And so they wring their hands and they fret about what's the problem. The problem is they are backing the wrong policies.
I completely agree. The suggestion that they're going to create a YouTube channel and then that will be the thing that will win over the kids, I think is quite absurd.
No, you're exactly right. You know, people are never as dumb as the political consultants want to think they are. You know, if you want to improve your standing with the public, you really have to take a hard look at what it is that you stand for, and are you aligned with the policy priorities that the voters have?
Yeah, well said. Now to double standards in the media, which cheered on the political persecution of Donald Trump for years. Well, now that the FBI is raiding the home of former National Security Advisor John Bolton, the suspect is the victim, and somehow it's all Trump's fault.
So we sees this as an opportunity to again portray himself as the victim. This is classic Donald Trump. You know, he spent most of his presidency portraying himself as a victim of the Russia investigation, certainly his impeachments. And now he's portraying himself as a victim of a runaway and politicized Department of Justice.
In a moment, we'll get to the stunning developments coming into the weekend, with FBI agents swarming around the home and office of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. But first, the context. This didn't happen in a vacuum. John Bolton is on a long list of Trump critics who are now facing the wrath of President Trump and his Justice Department.
John, what about context when it was Donald Trump who was being persecuted by a deranged Biden administration, which had to go through and pardon every single member of his family? What about the nuance then?
Yeah, those clips give you exactly the right contrast. The same reporters that cheered on the raid on Donald Trump's home and searching through his wife's underwear drawer are appalled that now a search warrant is executed at John Bolton's home. And of course, the media narrative is that this is just Trump's revenge, but there is more to it than that. There was a report yesterday in the New York Times indicating that American intelligence agencies intercepted communications by a hostile foreign intelligence agency, either China, Russia, or Iran in all probability. And that foreign intelligence agency, they were saying that they intercepted insecure email communications by John Bolton and described the contents of those communications reportedly to family members, and it's classified information. And so this is very much like the Hillary Clinton email scandal, using insecure personal communication methods to transmit classified information. And so in all likelihood, the purpose of this raid, which was signed off on by 2 federal judges, was to see if there's information that would show that these emails that the Foreign Intelligence Service was talking about are genuine. So there's every reason to think that this is a very legitimate investigation.
Yeah, you can't leak state secrets. And they did that to Trump as well. It's the same thing that they tried to get him on as well. So the hypocrisy is crazy. But look, moving on, because we all know that CNN is angry about the National Guard heading to DC, but it got awkward when an interview with a resident backfired live on air. The journalist was trying to push her opinion that crime had dropped, and let's see how that went.
First reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so John, the reporter is trying to put words in her mouth that, well, it's not needed because there's no more crime anymore, but it's not quite the answer that she was hoping for.
You know, I love to see regular people interviewed on crime. You know, in Washington, D.C., Chuck Schumer was on television. He's the Senate minority leader, and he said, I feel safe in Washington everywhere I go. Well, yeah, he's surrounded by armed guards everywhere he goes. Of course he feels safe. Talk to an ordinary resident of Washington or Chicago or many other American cities who live in fear of being victimized by crime. And they'll tell you the same story. They're very concerned about crime. And certainly in Washington, D.C., most people are very happy that President Trump has stepped in and assisted with law enforcement in that city.
Yeah, who would have thought people don't want to be mugged on the streets? It's very controversial stuff. Anyway, staying on the so-called DC takeover, you were told that Trump was trying to seize power. It was some of the most inflammatory and blatantly false reporting that I have ever seen. And now that crime is plummeting off the back of the extra police presence, and you can see that we just heard from residents who seem to realize that they were being lied to, watch how the mayor and the media flip.
The mayor says she was appreciative of this federal surge and that she says that it has actually driven down crime and that violent crime is down 45% and overall crime is now down 15%.
I'm not going to talk about the details of that conversation. You have seen what I have laid out in terms of our concerns, and you have seen what I've laid out in terms of the benefits. And that is the huge number of federal law enforcement, not National Guard, federal law enforcement that have enhanced NPD's deployment capacity.
Yeah, John, it's the same sort of thing. The media went out way too hard. Democrats went out way too hard, suggesting that this was horrible, that it was some kind of coup, really irresponsible reporting. Turns out that crime was a problem, and now the rates are plummeting. What did you make of the mayor's flip in this situation?
Well, you know, she's accountable to her constituents, and she lives in D.C. She understands that people don't like to be victimized by criminals, and you got to be happy about the fact that crime is down significantly. Carjackings are down by 87%. I want to make this point, though, Jack. You talk about misleading reporting, all this talk about Trump taking over, seizing power, and so on. The District of Columbia is unique. It is not part of any state. It is a federal territory. It is administered by Congress and the president. And this takeover of the DC police by President Trump is specifically provided for in federal law. The idea that this is some kind of illegitimate seizure of power, you know, is completely fictitious. And it's just false reporting. And I think everybody should be happy to see crime in our nation's capital really on the decline.
John, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insights.
Like, that only makes sense. You know, if the crime is down, you know, people are going to go out and have a good time and spend money, and it helps the economy. It helps the businesses. It's a positive thing. But, you know, the Democrats, of course, they're going to whine and cry and be like, no, there's no crime. Why are you here? There's no crime. Look, he's not stealing my purse. He's borrowing it. Oh, Lord. This is crazy. It's just really, really crazy. The times that we're in, it's really wild. Let's go ahead and let's check out these this one here. I'm gonna get off here soon, so let me go ahead and set this one up and set up the last one while I'm at it. Okay, it's set. So we're gonna watch the Ingram angle. Let's go.
We now know that the Minneapolis shooter, Robert Westman, was a mentally disturbed young man who, at the age of 17, with the approval of his mother, went trans and changed his name to Robin. Predictably, as with so many kids lured into this world, things got worse. Robert, then Robin, descended into darkness. 5 years later, he expressed regret about what he had done and a desire to detransition. Now, according to a translation of the purported manifesto, Westman wished he hadn't brainwashed himself and hadn't questioned his gender identity, writing that while he knows he wasn't a woman, he didn't feel like a man. Now, we don't know what sort of treatment he got, if any, but we do know that there needs to be an investigation into how so-called gender-affirming care is impacting our kids.
This is the second shooting involving a trans-identifying shooter who specifically targeted Christians and Catholic kids. What kind of consequences do the gender-affirming therapists, doctors, or even the parents of these shooters face after these types of shootings?
HHS is investigating perhaps links between some of these drugs and these prescription drugs that some of these minors may be taking and an increase in violence.
Here to discuss is Dr. Drew Pinsky, host of Ask Dr. Drew and Chief Patient Officer for the Wellness Company. Dr. Drew, Minnesota Democrats, you know, they brag about being a safe haven for trans youth and adults. They celebrate and elevate transgenderism, including in schools. You've seen it at cultural events. Jacob Fry's taken part in some of these. But isn't it time to have a serious conversation about, like, a federal ban on any gender treatment of any kind at any medical facility, at least when it involves minors?
Oh boy, it's a heavy question. But the reality, though, is, look, the fact that we take this treatment and we don't contemplate the context in which it occurs, and we bureaucratize and centralize and politicize the practice of medicine, you're going to have bad outcomes. This kid had a context that was much more serious problem than was his gender feelings. The reality is, it's like treating a fever when somebody has a pneumonia. You miss the underlying condition. And the reality also is, Laura, that there are people that do benefit from care, properly selected, properly timed. But we spend no energy figuring out who those patients are. So we're giving one size fits all, which only ends up in what looks to all of us like harm, as opposed to any potential benefit for anybody.
Wrong.
So do you think giving puberty blockers or even green lighting surgery for minors can be a good thing?
I'm not clear about surgery, but I've seen many cases in which somebody, as they hit puberty, not getting puberty blockers, just getting hormonal therapies, are carefully assessed for many months, sometimes years, and then are told they're going to be taking dangerous medicines for the rest of their life. They have to take these things. They're very circumspect about it. They understand they have a condition. These are dangerous medicines, and it's not to be willy-nilly applied to anybody who might have a funny feeling about who they are.
Yeah, transgenderism among young people, Dr. Drew, is skyrocketing, we understand. So trans kids ages 13 to 17 make up more than a quarter of the entire trans population. So when you look at Minnesota, where the shooting happened, the transgender rate there among 18 to 24-year-olds is the highest in the United States. What are your thoughts there?
We need to look at this as seriously as we look at rates of, say, something like autism, where you're not allowed to ask. All these years, we've not been allowed to ask, what is going on? Why are these rates going up? There's a reason here. Contagion has been suspected. There's all sorts of concerns about medications, of course, but there's something going on, and we need to understand what that is and stop merely slapping something on the surface and looking deeper. Humans are complicated. Our brains are complicated. And just giving some paste on the outside is not going to solve what's going on necessarily on the inside.
Do you think that, given what we've learned about this individual, that it's even conceivable that there weren't major red flags about a potential episode, perhaps a violent one, brewing here? We had lots of problems, obviously lots of disciplinary issues and other problems, but
yes,
this doesn't happen overnight.
No, it does not. They're absolutely categorically had the very. This is what is so disgusting to me, and frankly ashames me of my profession, that they focus on this one issue of care and miss the important context of what was going on with this kid. I don't want to say I feel sorry for a perpetrator like this, but is this kid better because of the care he got from the medical system? Are any of these kids that have shot places up and had transgender treatments better because they got transgender treatment? Something is very wrong with how we're approaching this treatment, and we need to solve that problem.
Well, European countries are beginning to ban it, have banned it. I think our whole country has to have a serious conversation about this. Dr. Drew, it's always great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity
Wow,
here.
that
Hey,
is
click
just,
here to
it's
subscribe
just
to
it's
Fox News
disturbing
YouTube page and catch our
with all these exploratory like medications and treatments, and it seems like it's not working, and these individuals are mentally disturbed, and they're just going wild now because their hormones are going crazy. They're suppressing their hormones, and it's just the body is reacting to it, and it's causing people just to like short circuit and freak out. And that's wild. That's really, 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 really wild. Living in dangerous times, yes, for sure. Very disturbing. It's just the innocent people are just like, and they go into soft targets, so they're not like going to like high, like protected areas. No, they're going to the most softest areas, churches. That's just proves how cowardly these individuals are, and how like horrible like humanity could be. And I don't only focus on the what happened in Minnesota, but I keep going back to the Damascus, what happened in Syria, because nobody is really talking about that. Nobody's talking about the bomber that went inside with a bomb, like a vest, and he went inside the church and blew himself up inside the church and killed 25 others, and 80 people are in the hospital, which 30 of them are in like critical condition. Like they're like serious critical condition, and they may not make it. So it's so disturbing. Like these soft targets are being attacked, and then they're religious. So they're kind of like mocking like God, right? They're mocking him, saying, "Listen, like, what you gonna do if I blow up all these people here? You're not gonna come and help them. They're dead." So it's amazing how like these militias, they don't care. They just they kill themselves, and they blow up and they kill others. And to get to that point in life, to do something like that, man, like what guarantees is given to what his family? Like he did that like to kill himself to protect his family. What's the purpose of blowing yourself up? And that's what happened in Damascus. And I've been following up a lot on that one. I know the Minnesota one seems bad. It is 2 innocent lives, 8 and 10, passed away during this horrific event. But the one in Damascus is just a lot bigger and a lot scarier. And the fact that it's being suppressed here in the United States is very disturbing. It's very disturbing. But this world is attracting something to come towards us. And I feel like the more negative and evil things, that's why the Democratic Party is like the party of like the demons, the party of the devil, the party of like nonsense. Like, where's the common sense? What happened to the common sense in the Democratic Party? Like that flip was so quick, and it's hard to even, like, I don't even know how people could still like claim to be Democrats. I mean, I wonder how, like, what schooling they went through and what made their minds like the way they are, because you gotta knock in some common sense into those minds. And I feel like they're just part of an agenda instead of, you know, being part of something that could be more helpful for humanity. It's like, how about all of us, not just a group of y'all? Because I feel like that group wants so much attention and so much, and they thrive off of it. They're like vampires. They're like energy, like vampires. Like, that's what they are. The Democratic Party is energy vampires. So we're gonna go ahead and go on to the last video, and I'm gonna be signing off for the morning show. So let's go ahead and set this up. Let's watch up and see what's up.
Minneapolis Catholic Church, where students at a back-to-school mass at the Annunciation Catholic School, where at least 2 children have died and 17 more were injured. Now, frankly, it's really too horrible to contemplate here, but we have to talk about it because this story, this tragedy, has sadly become political. Now, this individual, Robin Westman, has been identified as the shooter, but because Robin identified as trans and posted a long, violent manifesto about his transgenderism and regrets and hatred of Donald Trump and Israel and the Jews and the Catholic Church and a billion other things, well, that's created a bit of a problem for the media. This American ABC report was typical.
We've also been going through it and can tell you there are crude diagrams of the church. There are also photos of the weapons, and they include all sorts of writings, the names of past mass shooters, criticism of Israel, the name of President Trump written on the guns. There are also racial slurs.
The name of President Trump, racial slurs. You can see what they're doing here. They're trying to suggest maybe Westman was some sort of alt-right white supremacist MAGA fan. But what did the ABC leave out? Westman had written the words, "Kill Donald Trump," on his gun. I don't know. I kind of think that's important, for context, right? The New York Times, of course, was just as bad. They wrote, quote, "On social media, some conservative activists have seized on the shooter's gender identity to portray transgender people as violent or mentally ill. The right-wing uproar over Ms. Westman's gender identity echoed the politicized reaction to a 2023 mass shooting at the Covenant School in Nashville, which was carried out by a former student whom the police said was transgender. In a news conference, Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis, a Democrat, urged the public to avoid scapegoating transgender people," unquote. So you see what they did there? They did the right thing at the start by clearing up confusion about Westman's gender identity, but the paper was so afraid of the conclusions its readers might draw that it surrounded the report with layer after layer of messaging. So, like, if you paid the attention to the gender issue, they're saying, well, don't do that, because if you do that, you're right-wing and a conservative activist. And they also reminded you that Jacob Frey, a Democrat, so pay attention, urged against scapegoating. All this while insisting others politicized the shooting. Well, no, sorry, I'm not going to let that slide. But it wasn't just the media. Local Democrats and officials were also in on the game. Here's the local police chief, Brian O'Hara.
I have no information to share on a motive other than saying, again, that there was some sort of manifesto that was timed to come out on YouTube. It's been taken down, and our investigators are going through that to try and develop a motive from that.
Ah, yes, the old "we may never know the motive" routine. I mean, it looked pretty clear to me, but hey, what do I know? Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar was just as bad.
These kids did extraordinary things, but they never should have been put in that position in the first place. This was a madman. He was an all-purpose hater, by the way. Hated groups left, right, you name it. There's no way to pin an ideology on this.
All-purpose hater, nothing to see here, no politics involved. And Mayor Jacob Frey, as the Times suggested, well, here he is.
I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community.
By the way, this is a picture of Frey 5 years ago, tearfully kneeling at the golden coffin of George Floyd. Well, I think that tells you something about where he's coming from. Now, look, on one level, Frey is right. Nobody should demonize trans people over this, but frankly, that's not what this is all about. What we are seeing here is a typical, all too typical media cover-up. If this had been a right-wing shooter, we'd have heard no end about the motivations. We'd be hearing about this for weeks and months. But here the story is more difficult and complex for them because it goes against media pieties that have, far from treating transgender people as people, just like everybody else, something I reckon most people, whoever they are, want. Well, instead, the media sanctified them and said, well, you can't talk about things like mental illness because that's not inclusive or whatever. And this story might give them pause as well. The New York Post, which, unlike the Times, does not try to smother inconvenient facts, has reported that Westman was, quote, tired of being trans, unquote. According to the newspaper, Westman's manifesto included this: I only keep the long hair because it is pretty much my last shred of being trans. I am tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself, he wrote. Well, there you go. But that's a very inconvenient fact for the media, which never wants to link mental illness and transgenderism or brainwashing at all. And it's not Republicans or people pointing out the facts here who are politicizing this. This has to be said here. No, the politicization of this horrific crime, this horrific tragedy, is coming from those Democrats and media outlets who are twisting the facts here to cover for their own agenda. And that, in my view, is disgraceful.
That is disgusting. That's what that is. That's super disgusting. This I don't know, man. It's like the Democrats, they just don't know how to choose their battles wisely. Like, they just enter themselves into an arena where they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And it's dangerous times. It's really dangerous times for us out here. And, we don't know who's who and what's what. And there's a lot of wild west type of energy being projected out here. So with that said, I'm wrapping it up. It's an early show, but it's not a long show. It's just an early show. But I'm out of here. I'm gotta get some things done. I gotta go pick up some medicine and then be back on later on this evening for the evening show. So have a good day, everyone. Or have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And I'll catch you on the flip side. And I'll be back on tonight to go over through some news of what happened today and what's been a very busy week. This has been a very, very busy week, and we're heading into Labor Day weekend. This is it's gonna be a big long weekend. I feel crazy sad for the people in Chicago area. This weekend, let's see how it goes. I believe it's gonna be wild to the point that Trump's gonna have to send in the National Guards to put Chicago back in order as far as with the crimes and the gangs and all the craziness that's going on there. It's been going on for way too long, and the government there are just, I don't know if they're being paid to be blind or being paid to be ignorant. I mean, maybe it's both, and they're getting paid the same for both. Like, I don't know. It's just truly weird. It's fascinating how you just look at the Democrats and you just look from the outside in, and you just monitor. You just come to your conclusions and what you hear, and what does your mind tells you when you hear certain Democrats, how they protect their party and protect their agenda, and they're very sensitive, and they want to kneel down for for George Floyd. That's wild. That's so wild. The fact that they if they knew everything, if they knew the truth, you're wasting your time kneeling there. You're wasting your time. But yeah, that's how history gets suppressed. I know a lot of history has been suppressed, and they still do it to this day. And we got companies like CNN and ABC and NBC and MSNBC, and it's like a whole chain of left wing networks that are just really out of hand. It's just ridiculous. But we'll talk more about this tonight. I truly appreciate it. Continue having a good day. It's Friday. It's the start of our long 3-day weekend. This is for some. Some has to work on Monday, but for those who don't, it's a little mini vacation. Stay safe. Be careful on the roads, and be careful. Always monitor and know your surroundings, because things are a little hairy, and it's still. I still see things happening, like big things happening. So it sucks, but it is what it is. All right, guys. I'll catch you later. Peace for now.